Hello, welcome to Trump 100. I'm James Matthews.
And I'm Mark Stone.
And I'm Martha Kelner.
It's Friday, which means it's time for our Q&A episode. You've sent us questions over the past week or so, so for the next 20 minutes, we're going to try and answer some.
We'll do our best, and we're doing it live, wherever you are watching, on YouTube, on Sky News platforms. We are live for the next 20 minutes, and we've had a load of questions. We're very grateful to everyone for writing in, sending us our questions, and let's get going, shall we?
That's right, yeah. Martha, we're going to ask you the first one. A question from Jarrell, who asks, is Donald Trump smarter than we give him credit for?
Very good question, Jarrell. I guess that depends by which metrics we measure intelligence, doesn't it? So if you ask Donald Trump, he'd say he's the smartest man that walks the face of the planet, I'm sure.
A genius.
But we don't know what his IQ is, right? He says his IQ in the past, he said it's, more than Barack Obama, more than George W. Bush. We simply don't know what his IQ is. I would suspect that his emotional IQ, his emotional intelligence is fairly low. His organisational intelligence, probably not particularly high. But I think he is some form of political genius. I'm not sure we've seen a political communicator quite like Donald Trump before. So I think it would be folly to write him off as stupid. Certainly, there is definitely an element of genius to him. He has this uncanny ability for self-promotion, and particularly translating that self-promotion into personal and political gain. He has this remarkable ability to tap into the zeitgeist, to understand what people's fears are, what their motivations for voting are. And we saw that, didn't we, in the 24 election campaign. He was able to harness people's emotions in a way that Kamala Harris simply wasn't, right?
Yeah, no, you're right. I think he does have a form of intelligence, Martha, doesn't he? As you say, he has an animal cunning, I think, and a talent for self-promotion, an understanding of how to manipulate a situation to his advantage. Yeah. But I think we can't forget the testimony of people who worked alongside him in the White House, certainly first time round. They say that he had no grasp of detail, was a man who who needed simple explanations, and they spoke to an individual who really was just there for the ride and not fit for office.
I think, though, I mean, in simple terms, he is an incredible political communicator. You only have to go to his rallies, and goodness me, we all went to quite a few of them in the election campaign. He spoke to the people in a way that they liked. They wanted to hear it. He maybe not the greatest orator, but as a communicator, just incredible.
I think we saw that, didn't we, when he was talking about, the eating cats and dogs, about the Haitian migrants in Springfield, Ohio, when he was talking about, doctors executing babies after they're born. I think, he knows that those things are not true, but he said them because he knows that they appeal to people's, biggest fears. Yeah.
On to the next question. Simon, you've sent us this. Mark, I'll ask you, how much of a part is Susie Wiles playing, Chief of Staff? We see and hear very little. Is it a forlorn hope that she is intending on putting up the guardrails on Trump's more outrageous impulses?
Very good question, Simon. So Susie Wiles, 67 years old, she is often described as the Trump whisperer. One or two people have been called that in the past, but somebody who Donald Trump trusts implicitly, somebody he apparently listens to, somebody who has had Republican politics in her veins for her whole life. She began life as a scheduler on the Reagan campaign back in the early 1980s. So she has been at his side for a long time, and actually is literally at his side. When you see him in the Oval Office, as we have done so many times over the past, 25, 26 days, she's off camera, always, just to the right, sitting on one of those chairs. She is seen to be a guardrail, someone who through the campaign certainly was able to hone the message, to keep him on message, because he loves to veer off all the time, to keep him on message. I do think that there has been a little bit of tension over the course of the past few weeks, not necessarily with Donald Trump himself, but with the other guy, with Elon Musk. There has been some reporting over here in the past few days, in fact, that Susie Wiles is frustrated with Musk's team. He, remember, is part of DOGE, this Department of Government Efficiency, and she's been trying to coordinate closer. I think one of the problems, I don't know if you agree, is that Trump has enabled a lot of people very quickly to get on with stuff. And her job as the gatekeeper is to try and keep all that together and keep the message, straight and narrow. Her job is not to agree or disagree with his policy. It's to control the message. And that's an almighty job. I think there has been some frustration, but I think at the moment things are going okay. That's my sense. I don't know what you think.
I can see there clearly, if there's not already, there will develop a tension between Elon Musk and Donald Trump. And you can see Susie Wiles, who is wedded to the Trump project and to Trump himself. You can see why she will sense the danger to Donald Trump, the rivalry, the threat to his authority as President of the United States. So, when she looks at Musk, with a wider angle, perhaps, than Donald Trump is doing right now, you can see why she wouldn't be happy. But, the whole Musk-Trump relationship, we'll see how that evolves. Already looks on shaky terms.
Yeah, she does seem like sort of the ultimate Trump loyalist, doesn't she? We've got another question here, guys. David Baker from upstate New York. He says he's been a listener since day one.
Excellent. We have US listeners as well.
Cheers, David.
Thanks for that, David. His question is about Republican members of Congress. He says, I'm wondering how they're reacting to what President Trump is doing. If they start hearing from some of their constituents who have been fired by Trump and Musk, will they still support Trump, or will they start to act on that?
Yeah, thanks, David. I think the whole support and buy-in from Republicans, I think it varies. Some are all in, fully signed up to the sugar rush of power and the project. But the Republicans I speak to, they're not all wholly enamoured. They think, as Congress people through time, that there has to be a reconciliation in the politics, in Congress, beyond these daily episodes of executive order starring Donald Trump as himself. They want to get back to some kind of bipartisan, productive politics in the co-equal branch of the political establishment here. And of course, some are feeling the heat from these Donald Trump executive orders. The reduction in medical research funding is one example that has hit Republican-led parts of the country, places like Alabama, where that state senator has been fielding some awkward questions. And I don't think she'll be the last. The difficulty, of course, is dissent against Trump, in a party that has shifted its centre of gravity, long since shifted, towards Trumpism, towards MAGA politics. And there is a small matter of the threat from the White House. You contradict or antagonise the Trump project in any way, and you will be primaried. We will come after you. And Elon Musk has weighed in saying that he will fund contests, talking about compiling a list, a naughty list.
I think that's the thing. It's the pile-ons that will emerge for against anyone who stands up, and pile-ons with huge amounts of money as well. Elon Musk is able just to plough in money to kick these people out of office if they step out of line. That's the reality over on Capitol Hill right now.
Yeah. Misa has sent a question, Martha. What dirt does Musk have on Trump? These questions aren't all easy. What dirt does he have that allows Musk to ask as the US president, to act as the US president? And have we not seen J.D. Vance because he's been busy crying in a corner?
He's busy throwing a lot at Europe, isn't he?
Right now.
Yeah, he's busy at the Munich Security Conference at the moment. Interesting question, Misa. I'm not sure it's quite so much about what dirt Elon Musk has on Donald Trump. I think it's more about the money and the power and the influence that he in turn offers Donald Trump. Just take the election campaign. Elon Musk put more than $250 million into that election campaign. And it wasn't just that. It was the fact that he was appearing on stage, alongside Donald Trump as his biggest supporter at these rally events, raising his fist in the air, really geeing up the crowd. It seemed like a genuine support for President Trump. And I think, aside from any of that, Elon Musk also offers Donald Trump an algorithm. He offers him access to the world's, biggest, one of the world's biggest social networking platforms in X, formerly Twitter. And remember, Donald Trump was a pariah on Twitter just, 3-4 years ago. He was banned from the platform. Elon Musk has allowed him a way back into that mainstream platform. So, it's an interesting relationship. I think a lot of people feel like there's a sense of inevitability around a falling out between the two men, simply because they both like to be centre of attention. They're both volatile personalities. They're both unpredictable leaders. And I think there's a question about how long they can coexist in the same ecosystem, certainly. But at the moment, they seem to be getting along very well. So I'm not sure it's that Elon Musk has dirt on Donald Trump. It's that I think at the moment, the relationship is mutually beneficial for the two of them. Donald Trump is able to rely on Elon Musk's sort of slash and burn techniques that he's used in corporate America, and he's applying that to federal government. And Elon Musk has unfettered access to the White House. He was having a meeting with the Indian Prime Minister yesterday. So I think it works for both of them.
It's a symbiotic relationship, and I think the more that we all talk about the fact that it won't last, the more the more the emphasis is on them to make it last, to prove everyone wrong. So I think that'll be a factor as well. Yeah,
just briefly, I think the interesting question in the long term, should it all fall apart, is where the power and the influence lies. Is it with Trump or is it with Musk? And people like Musk who backed with big money Donald Trump. And, they're not going to go away quickly. They're people who want the bang for their buck. Right now, it suits them to have Donald Trump in the Oval Office. Should there come a day when it doesn't, then what then? Where does the power lie? How does that affect the government of this country?
It's worth saying that Musk is actually, polling suggests Musk is not that popular. Donald Trump is popular, and something we're not discussing today, but his approval rating is high. Much higher than it was during his first term. People believe that he is doing what he said he would do. So that's interesting. But Elon Musk is less popular across America.
And I think potential conflicts of interest will start to be more of a thing in terms of public opinion as well. I think people will see, Elon Musk having a bed, in the White House, Elon Musk having meetings with world leaders before the president, and it will start to, provoke curiosity in public minds about, we've not elected this man, no one voted for him, so why has he been allowed to become so powerful?
Quite. Let's move on because we've got a lot to get through, and we want to get through as many as we can. Lots of questions about Trump getting involved in the Ukraine war this week, trying to find peace. Students from the Southborough High School sixth form have been listening to us. Thanks, guys. Thank you very much for listening. What they want to know, James, is why has Trump seen Putin before Zelenskyy? This is a reference to Trump not seeing him, but he's called Putin. He called Putin and then called Zelenskyy.
Yeah, thanks for the question. It's a good one. And it's exactly the question, of course, that Zelenskyy himself is asking. It's frustrated him that Trump made the first call to Putin. And I think it carries ominous indicators as to Ukraine's involvement in talks about its future, despite subsequent assurances from Donald Trump. When you couple it with comments that he made about Zelenskyy standing in the Oval Office, less than full-throated in his support of the Ukrainian leader, having that courtesy extended first to Putin, that thaw in US-Russian relations, clearly it's welcome in the Oval Office, but not necessarily welcome by Zelenskyy or indeed European countries. It is... Putin Putin has always said he doesn't want Ukraine involved in any kind of peace talks, described Zelenskyy as illegitimate. Biden, prior to Trump, his policy was always nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine, and that's what Zelenskyy wants to hear. He wants to hear him say that seizing the sovereign territory of a friendly nation was wrong and needs to be reversed. It's the kind of emphatic show of support that would give Zelenskyy confidence moving forward, would also inspire confidence in NATO countries in Europe. We haven't had that from Donald Trump. He is, there's this big question about trust moving forward, trust in Putin. I think there's a key question regarding trust of Donald Trump and his tactics going forward.
Yeah, he was asked in the Oval Office by our colleague Caitlin Collins from CNN. She interrupted. There was an interesting moment, actually. She tried to ask him a question and obviously spoke too soon, and he slapped her down with a very, very hard response to her. I'm talking, and she was taken aback, I think. And then she asked the question again when she was allowed to. There's a separate conversation we can have about the role of the media and whether the Trump team are going to be quite hostile towards the media. But her question was, do you trust Putin? And he said, yes, I do on this issue. And I think many European leaders will worry that he trusts Putin because they believe that Putin is just going to regroup and fight another day. But you could argue, and I think the White House probably would, that he called Putin first, to go back to the sixth former's question, he called Putin first because no American president has spoken to Putin since 2021. That's the last time Biden, who was then president, spoke to Putin. Whereas they're always talking to Zelenskyy. So I guess the argument is, right, we know what Zelensky's position is. I'm the American president. I'm going to pick up the phone and talk to Putin to find out what he wants. I guess that would be Trump's argument.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting as well that President Trump was saying he gets along well with President Xi and President Putin as people. I mean, that is a big deviation from the sort of tone that Joe Biden would have used when he was in the White House. We've got another question here, also on Russia and Ukraine. Both Toke and History Pete made comparisons to World War II. Toke asks, do politicians learn the lessons of history?
Yes, maybe History Pete should be called History Repeat. Sorry, that was
very good. Sorry about that, History Pete. I think I would join that with another question. Actually, we've got from Toke. He says this feels like a rerun of 1939. Yeah. Instead of Britain and France submit USA, instead of Nazi Germany substitute Russia, Ukraine, the new Czechoslovakia. Do politicians learn the lessons of history? He asks. I think we have to be careful about drawing direct comparisons, but equally it's important not to ignore the similarities, and they haven't gone unnoticed here over Russia-Ukraine. You see Trump, by his critics certainly, likened to Neville Chamberlain, British Prime Minister, who signed the Munich Agreement with Hitler. Peace for our time, he called it, and we all know what happened after that. World War II.
Ironic that they're meeting in Munich now.
Well, yeah, we don't. Yeah. Who needs yet another parallel? I mean, at that time, it was the appeasement of an aggressor who had territorial ambitions, was prepared to promise one thing, then do another, namely go to war. It was the misjudgment of a dictator at the time, one who didn't share the ideals and values of our own, one for whom democracy was a threat. And people hear that echo in the whole Trump-Putin friends reunion. And it's against that background that we have this reset. Trump resetting the way that America interacts with the rest of the world, an established order that has maintained the peace post-war. Trump is ripping that up in terms of shifting alliances. He's aggressive towards allies on trade. He has territorial ambitions of his own, disregard for the sovereignty of other nations, namely Greenland. Put that together with what's happening domestically as well with regard to Trump. Institutions of government being undermined, stripped back, loyalty tests for candidates in jobs, in intelligence roles, the CIA and so on. The media being lent on in ways that it hasn't been lent on before. So, critics here are pointing out, there is a danger of a creeping autocracy and Trump's encouragement of that abroad. there's also a discussion about a creeping autocracy here at home.
Yeah.
On Russia, Ukraine, we've got a question for you, Mark, from Mo. Mo asks, is Trump just being realistic? It does feel like the only way to end the war is for Ukraine to give up land.
Well, on that, just as we're talking now, we have news that J.D. Vance, the Vice President, is sitting down at the moment in a Munich hotel with Volodymyr Zelenskyy, the Ukrainian president. And Vance has told Zelenskyy, we want to achieve a lasting, durable peace. That the desire by the Americans, a lasting, durable peace. Now, how do you achieve that? I think that behind the scenes, for quite a long time now, there has been an acceptance by Western governments that durable, lasting peace would involve some sort of handover of land, or Russia being able to keep an amount of land in the east of Ukraine. We don't know at the moment how much land. Would it be just Crimea? Would it be the Donbass region as a whole? But I think behind the scenes there's been that acceptance has been there. The issue, I think, this past week has been Trump doing what he often does, which is to say the quiet stuff out loud. And actually appearing to give that concession even before the negotiations have begun. And not only that, but also conceding openly, publicly, through his defense secretary, that Ukraine would never be part of NATO. Now, that flies in the face of Western policy, for public policy, I should say, for a long time, which is that there is a path, there is a sort of an unobstructed path for Ukraine to join NATO at some unknown point in the future. Suddenly, Trump sort of cut that off, even before the negotiations have got going. So to answer Mo's question, yeah, I think... But if you talk to sort of policy wonks in many European capitals, they will for quite some time have quietly said, yeah, I think it probably will mean that some land in the east goes to Russia. But they would never say it publicly, because these negotiations are so critical and so difficult that you kind of have to do it around a table.
Yeah. Moving on, we have a question from American 2025. The question is for you, Martha. When is it expected that President Trump will pass the bill for IVF coverage?
That's an interesting question, American 2025, because this was a big talking point in the run-up to the 2024 election. It kind of was an offshoot from the debate around abortion access. Obviously, the constitutional right to choose abortion was overturned when the Supreme Court got rid of Roe versus Wade, which gave women the right to choose. And then you saw anti-abortion activists turn their attention on IVF. This is intra vitro fertilisation. And they said, we want to get rid of that as well. There was a revolt in the Senate. The Senate dismissed any calls for banning IVF. And in fact, Donald Trump, as part of this sort of push in the Trump movement to put family first, he said he was going to offer free IVF to any couples that wanted to have children and weren't able to. Reproductive rights since January seem to have fallen off the agenda somewhat. But I know there's many couples who want to see IVF, which costs typically thousands and thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars. They would like Donald Trump to come good on that campaign promise. He does, though, have to be careful with his large evangelical base, some of whom don't agree with IVF at all. Also, the insurance companies who have a strong lobbying voice in Washington. But I spent some time earlier this year at an IVF clinic in California, one of the leading IVF clinics in the country. And they said it will cost billions and billions of dollars in federal money if Donald Trump does offer free IVF access to everyone. So, it'll be interesting to see if he does come good on that promise.
Yeah, thanks, Martha. The last question, the one we all want to know the answer to, is for you, Mark. It comes from Steve. Thanks, Steve. You ask, I noticed President Trump seems to sign all executive orders with the same pen. Do you know what sort of pen it is?
We do. They are specially designed Sharpies. That Donald Trump loves. The official supplier of pens to the presidency is a company from Rhode Island called A.T. Cross. That was a relationship formalized in the Clinton years, and it's a kind of posh pen that you might imagine, not a fountain pen, but a posh rollerball. But Donald Trump didn't like that pen. There's a quote from him here that I found. He said, "I was signing documents with a very expensive pen and it didn't write well. It was a horrible pen, and it was extremely expensive, a government-ordered pen."
A bad workman always blames his tools.
Yeah, right. And then he says, I pulled out a standard Sharpie pen and concluded not only that it writes much better, but costs almost nothing. So I called up the folks at Sharpie and said, do me a favor, can you make this pen in black? Make it look rich. So they're
Make
Sharpies.
Sharpies rich again.
But yesterday, my colleague Ed and I were zooming in on the picture to be able to see what it said on the Sharpie, because he has a whole box of them and signs each executive order with a new one. And then if he's among a crowd, not journalists, he'll throw them out to the crowd. So on the pen, I think on one side it says the White House. It might say Trump White House. We couldn't quite tell. But on the other side, it's got his signature. So on the pen that he uses to write his signature, it's got his signature.
We need to get one, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
All right. Listen, thank you. Thanks very much indeed for your questions. Sorry if we didn't get to the ones that you sent in. Do listen to us or watch us on YouTube. We broadcast every day, our Trump 100 podcast. How many days are we on at the moment?
I can't remember.
20-something.
26, I think.
26. Plenty more to come.
If you're watching in the UK, it drops wherever you get your podcast at around 6 a.m. UK time. And we kind of try to do our best to fill you in on the ups, downs, twists and turns of everything that's happening here.
Of which there are many. Many thanks for watching and listening. Look forward to speaking to you again soon.